Welcome back, Dad Bod's Hot Rods Garage. Today, we're going to assemble the 454 for the Chevelle. So I've got, I believe, most everything I need here ready to go. We'll put the cam in, we'll put the lifters in, we'll bolt the heads on, and then we'll have to worry about, we'll have to work on measuring for push rod length and get our push rods ordered, which those can be done after the motor's in the car. So the plan would be to get this all put together, bolt the transmission back to it, and get it put back into the car, and then I can do the rest of the stuff later. Last video you saw we put the windows in, the front and rear windows in. Wiring's already started. But anyways, back to this 454, punched out 60 over. It's got a 510 lift cam, not sure the duration yet. The cam didn't have a lot of specs on it, but it's got disc or flat top pistons. It's got a lot of really good stuff in it, so let's get started putting this together. So since this motor had been set for such a long time, I had to take it apart and clean everything. I'm going to reseal it. When I pulled the cam out, there's a lot of junk in here. I had to clean a lot of stuff up, and it's going to be difficult to clean all these cam bearings all the way in the back of the block. So I made this. It's just a shop towel on a broom handle. So hit it with some brake cleaner and run it through. Spin it around a few times. Of course, I'm using lint-free. I think they're lint-free shop towels. Maybe they're not. But that's really cleaning up all those surfaces, making sure there's nothing on there between the bearings and the camshaft. There's my cam, or what they call a bump stick. Like I said, I don't know the specs of it because there was only a few numbers on it, and I couldn't find a reference anywhere, so I just measured the lobes and determined that this would be what we're going to use. So with some longer bolts put in here so you can, makes it easier to put in. Once you get near the end, it's kind of hard to hold this end and this end straight. And there's been a million videos on that, I'm not going to show you. So what I'm going to be using is comp cams, cam and lifter installation lube, separate from any other assembly lube. This is specific for camshafts and lifters, especially if you got flat tappets and you're not going to start the car for a while. This is a really good product. Of course, you got to remember to take the top off, which I didn't do. Oh yeah, it's going to make a mess. So I'm gonna install the cam, take it back out, install it again, just because I want to make sure there's plenty of this assembly lube in the journals between the cam and the cam bearings. Because as you can see, as you're pushing it in, it takes the lube off, and as you can see, it's not all over the bearing surface. So I'm gonna have to try to get as much lube on there as I can. There's a spot I can kind of reach between the lifter valley here and lube the cam some. Come on. Well, that stuff is like molasses. All right, so I got the cam in. I got it all lubed up. Lift you up and get you in there so you can see. I was able to lube the lifter of the lobes of the cam through these ports. And it's all in nice and lubricated, ready to toss the lifters in. And then put the timing chain on. So I've had the lifter soaking in oil for a long time. I'm not sure what brand these lifters are, but they were in here when I got it. Some of them need a little love, a little cleaning. As you can see, it's got some discoloration there. That's just from sitting inside the motor for a while. So I'm just going to take some Scotch-Brite and see how that cleans up really quickly. Good to go. Okay, we're getting there. There's a few more to go. Probably time lapse this if I need to or something, but just thought I'd give you an idea of what's going on with this, how I'm doing it. May not be the way you do it, and people that run and own machine shops or engine building facilities would be screaming at me right now. All that needs to go to a machine shop and be checked and double checked and mic'd and parts replaced and new machining done, and that's just not in my budget. This isn't going to be that kind of car. I mean, it's going to be a fun car for sure. It's going to be fun, but it doesn't have to be. I don't want it to be so nice and so pristine that it's a garage queen and never, be afraid to drive it and whatnot. I want to be able to get out and enjoy it. Like I do my Bel Air and my Corvette. When I drive those cars, every time I drive them, at some point, I drive them hard. I give them the beans. I've built them for specific purposes and based on research and performance goals for each vehicle, I've built them with particular goals in mind. And I thought, well, if I've spent all that money and time, I may as well enjoy them and do that. So I drive them as often as I can and as hard as I can when I do. Otherwise, why do it? I mean, I don't understand that mentality of spending all that money for something to never fully enjoy it. All right, so we're gonna put the timing chain on now. So first thing to do is get your sprocket up to the point, to the mark on the sprocket for the crank, to the top. That's this point here. Okay, and then your cam sprocket has a dot on it as well, which is here. This one. So before we put the chain on, I'll set the chain there. I'll put my sprocket on. I'll turn that cam to that point is lined up with that point. Something like that. So then, This is kind of tricky. You have to have everything lined up just perfect. Now looking at that, this alignment dial is perfectly centered, but this thing is oblong. So if I go to put it in, it's going to move the chain. Can't tell which way it kind of needs to move it, but I've not seen that before. I'm on the struggle bus today, buddy. Okay, I got it sorted out. So let's just get the plate on, and I gotta put some Loctite on these. I don't put Loctite on them because I don't want it coming off. That would be bad. So I got this nifty little retainer plate. All right, these torque to 20 foot-pounds. That's the lowest my torque wrench goes, so it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, basically, I guess we'll button up the oil pan and the timing cover. So in that case, I'm going to have to rotate the motor over to get the pan on, because there are bolts that go from the pan into the timing cover. Because this, well, you know, I'm worried about the lifters popping out, huh? Maybe putting them in wasn't such a good idea after all, buddy. Rethink this for a second. I'll be back. All right, I got it flipped over. I'm going to move to the oil pan gasket. This is a one-piece rubber gasket instead of the three-piece traditional style one. Never used one of these on a Chevy motor like this before, but other people have. They've given it great reviews, so we will give it a try ourselves. Now those bolt holes are smaller than the rest. Put our fancy-dancy aluminum, it's not aluminum, fancy-dancy chrome pan on. And notice that it really needs some squishing to get down there. This is going to be interesting. Unfortunately, I allowed the battery to die on my microphone as I was recording, so I lost all the audio in these next few clips. So I'll have to talk you through this one with a voiceover. So here I'm showing the difference between the block and the head gaskets. The block has these large ports for cooling passages into the head, but the head gasket doesn't have any on the bottom, and the ones on the top have very small holes. I talked to a couple of machine shops and a performance shop, and they said to leave those like they are with the gasket. The cooling comes from the head on each side and the end, and if you open those ports up, it will allow the motor to overheat. No matter what you do, the cooling passages will overheat. So it's the same on the passenger side, same gasket, same heads. Skip forward just a little bit. As you can see here, I've put the harmonic balancer and the bottom crank pulley on. I'm cleaning up the head studs now, making sure there's nothing in the threads. You saw the last video where we redid the heads and put the valves back in. I've chased all the threads in the block so the bolts will go through and be able to torque it down without any issues there. Don't laugh, these cast iron heads are heavy. I don't know if you've ever put a set of big block heads on, especially the cast iron ones. It's a two-man job at best. But I managed. I may have looked goofy doing it, but I managed. This is the thread sealer I use for the head bolts. The head bolts go through the head into the water passages in the block. And if you don't use a thread sealer, more than likely you'll end up with water in your combustion chamber or in your oil passages. This will seal it up and create a barrier between the two. I put this on all of the head bolts, regardless if they went through a water passage or not, because I wasn't sure exactly which ones went all the way through. If you're not sure, on the other side, before you put the other head on, you can look and see if the hole goes all the way through or if it has a bolster to it where it does not. So just be mindful of that when you're putting these in. And I torque them the same as I would if I was using an ARP Moly lube. I torque the head bolts down in 3 steps, following the sequence and specs I found online. Well, here it is, all bolted together. Both heads are bolted down and torqued on using the seam sealer and torqued to specs. The fluid dampener pulley is on. The front pulleys are on. The dampener hasn't been torqued down yet. It's just been bolted on, but it's there and ready to go. Next thing I have to do is put the lifters back in, get it in the air, and put the flex plate back on, and then bolt it to the strands and put it in the car. Right, now that I got everything cleaned up and put away, this is where we're at for right now. I gave it about 3 coats of clear, touched up some of the paint spots. The intake's just sitting on there. It's probably not going to be the intake I use for the motor, but it's on there for now just for looks. Or actually for a place to store it. Painted my Hughes Performance 700 R4 transmission. It's brand new, ready to go in. Got the engine on the hoist. I'm about to install the flex plate and torque that down, and then I'll put the transmission on and we'll get her put in. I think we'll get her put in. That's the plan anyway. So let me get these bolts out. Get this stuff cleaned up. Probably gonna have to get the bench grinder out again. Clean this mess up. Yeah, these bolt threads are pretty crunchy. All right, well, I didn't get it filmed, but the transmission has made it to the motor. Bolts are in, converter bolts are in. I'm going to have to torque those down a little bit better. This has to be torqued down too, so I can do that when it's in the car after I put it in. Now the issue is going to be getting that out here, spun around, and go in there. So I'm going to scoot the car over, put it on some jack stands, and try to figure out how I'm going to make that happen. So hang tight. So what I'll do is cheater bar. So I get up to those, lift up on it, sort of go up and over that. If you can help me do that or push,
I think borrow the bush.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Fun.
Try that again. Oh, fuck.
There we go.
That's one side. Your board is kind of creaking.
There, let's see.
It sounds kind of crunchy.
It does, doesn't it? Okay, oh, we gotta come up with it. Watch your fingers.
The board's kind of tearing up a little bit.
That's right, the board is disposable. The motor's not. Okay. Right up to there. Oh. And then I'll lift one side and look at that go. Look at that just go.
Close.
Did I drop that bolt? Yeah. Perfect.
That way for you.
All right, so the trans mounts are in, engine mounts are in. We'll drop it down, get the picker out, finish this up. Let's toss this on there for a minute. Let's throw one of these on here. Like that. And voila. Look at that, folks. Look at that. If that ain't something. Doesn't that look good? Woo. All right. I like it. Well, now that I got everything cleaned, I'll put the car back in and we'll be done for this evening. I got some editing to do. Let's see if I can get her in without having to take the entire cover off. Thank you for watching Dad Mods and Hot Rods Garage. Hope you liked this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tune in for the next episodes.